recently I was traveling in South America, and on one leg of my journey on a domestic flight in Chile, at the very beginning of my trip, I sat next to this young woman who had just graduated from Emory University. And I learned that she was traveling by herself throughout South America for several months, and I was really impressed by this. And she said that part of her journey was culinary in nature, that she was a foodie, and so she had decided that she was just going to open herself up to any kind of food that came her way. She was going to experience, whatever cuisine was available. So I thought, that's a really great idea. I think that's a great way to kind of rise above, your cultural programming when it comes to food. And so I adopted that for myself for the rest of my trip. And so there were times when we'd go to a restaurant and I wouldn't even know what I had ordered, but it would arrive and I would eat it, and I had some really delicious meals. And then one day we were traveling to an island just off the coast of Chile, and we got on a ferry to go across the body of water. And it was one of those ferries where you just drove right on, and there were no seats or anything. You could stay in your car, or in our case, a motorcycle, or you could get off and kind of stand by the edge. So I got off and was standing by the edge, and there was this young Chilean girl traveling by herself. There were pedestrians also that would go on this. It was just like a 25-minute ferry ride. And she was traveling by herself. She had this backpack, and she was standing on the edge, and she was leaning over and just laughing. The spray was hitting her in the face, and she was just laughing with incredible joy. And so she motioned for me to join her. So I went over, and I was standing next to her, and we were leaning over and getting hit by the spray and laughing. And I speak no Spanish, and she didn't speak any English. But she was trying to communicate with me, and I had my phrase book out, and I was looking words up and trying to communicate with her. And we were mostly just smiling a lot at each other. And then she opened up her backpack, and she got out this snack. And she opened it up, and she started to eat it, and she offered it to me. And I had no idea what it was, but I remembered my pledge, and so I said gracias, and I took it and I ate it, and I thought, my God, what am I eating? But she wasn't dying or anything, so I thought it must be okay. And it was incredibly dry and really salty and tough. And so we traveled in silence for a little bit longer, and then she got out the packaging, and she was reading the back of it, and I thought, is she reading the fat grams? Or 'cause she was quite slender. And then she tapped me on the shoulder, and she put it in front of me. She had found the ingredients in English. And so she pointed, and I read, manufactured from the finest equine parts. Yes. And so she asked if I wanted more, and I very politely said, no, thank you, in Spanish. And then I walked back to my boyfriend, who was standing about 10 feet behind me watching all of this, and I said, I think my throat is closing. And he said, what? And I said, I just ate horse. And he said, oh my God, is that what that was? And I said, yes. And he said, honey, just rise above. That's my story.